Recording it is.
And please note that I am not Janice Hollinger, even though it says I'm Janice Hollinger.
I was wondering who that was.
She's
nice enough to let me be at her house while my rooms are being painted. So
there you go. Wonderful.
That's a good friend.
Welcome everybody to Agreement Session 5. I think it's April 4th. And well, let's see. We did something different last week for our check-in. So what will we be up to today? For our check-in today, let's hear about your progress with laying new neural pathway tracks to change what doesn't work for you. And each of you can have a couple of minutes and share whatever you'd like to about those neural pathways and changing what doesn't work for you. And like I said, take a couple of minutes each, and then we'll please declare that you're present if you are. Who would like to go first?
I'll go first. I have been getting up earlier, although I haven't been doing what I said I was going to do when I got up earlier, but getting up earlier has made it easier for me to get the things that I need to do done. So I'll say I get a 75% instead of a 100% on what I was doing. So good effort, not quite there yet. And I'm complete, I'm present.
Wonderful. Good to hear it. Well, Noelle will wake you up early starting Friday, since we'll be in the same place, and then you can do whatever it is that you do.
Okay.
Next.
Actually, you won't be able to wake me up until Saturday morning.
That's right.
Well, I'll go next. Again, because I'm the deep one, I'm going to go deep.
Wonderful.
I've really been looking about changing what doesn't work for me, and carrying around guilt and shame doesn't work for me. I never thought that I would live to age 50. I never did. So the fact that here I am, I'm not living my next 50 with packages of guilt and shame. And so one of the ways that I practice that is I shared a little bit with my husband yesterday for the first time in the 32 years I know him. And here's your pretty face. I can't hear you though.
I just muted her, so you can go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I am changing what doesn't work and what does. I'm keeping him and getting rid of the shame and the guilt.
Wonderful.
So I am very present today and very excited. I had to rush. I was in a client meeting at 2:00 this afternoon, and I've been at the house, and all of a sudden it was 10 after 5, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go. So here I am.
Present, thank you. Who would like to go next?
Well, it looks like Noelle is busy, so I guess I'll go next. I think that, one of the things that I've been struggling with is being overwhelmed with what's wrong a lot.
Excuse me, Carrie. I can just barely hear you. I've turned mine up all the way. If others are having a hard time hearing you, I just want to make sure we all get to hear everything you have to say.
Okay.
Can others hear her okay?
Yeah.
You can? Okay. All right. I'm sorry for the interruption, Carrie. I just want to make sure we could all hear every word.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Can you still hear me now?
Yeah, I don't know whether there was maybe something laying over top of your speaker or your microphone on your computer or anything, but you're fine.
Well, it's in the back of my computer, so it's
Okay.
where it can't be touched. No, it's just, I think I had the volume down. I've been having most of my life I've been having a problem when I get overwhelmed by things, when a lot of stressful things come into my conscious awareness and I get way overwrought over it. And shifting my thinking has been difficult, but I've been doing a pretty good job of it, except for today when, I don't know, it just seemed like reading what was on the net today just broke it for me. I lost it. Because it seems like we're on the edge of war, and all of this insanity is going on, and they're blatantly trying to take everything that means anything to people like you and me away from us. And I was just very upset. And I went to my next door neighbor and I told her all about how upset I was and how scared I was and all of this stuff. And she just sort of listened. And then I went back in the house and I went to myself, you know what? That was not a good thing to do. That was just not a good thing to do. And so I went back to her and I apologized for, about all of my upset. And it was very accommodating. But it was a big deal to me, and I told her it's not you that I'm apologizing to, really, it's me. But I have to make a show of it in order to get it in where it belongs for myself. So that's one of the things I've done this week that has helped me to stop doing that. I'm complete.
Thank you, Carrie. And there at the end, I could just barely hear. I could hear you, but it faded, so I'm not quite sure what's up with your microphone. I have my speaker turned up all the way.
It got a little muffled at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I'll have to find out.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking maybe something was near the microphone on your computer. So,
Nope.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, let's jump in here. We have Noelle. I'm sorry, my bad. Unmuted.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, am I allowed to talk now?
If something,
Okay.
if you change something that doesn't work today, yes.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, what I've done now is change something because I was just getting cut out on the computer, so I'm on the phone. So I'm scrunched over in the office here trying to make this work. But what I did differently, I said I wanted to do more time getting up and reading, doing spiritual work. And I've done pretty good on that and learned some really great, very helpful, actually coping strategies for the times that we're in. So that's helping me a lot. So I am present. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. I hope we didn't lose Pam, but I'm sure she'll be back quickly.
Oh, you mean she didn't see her birthday card?
I think she did, and then it went away. Then the tile went away.
It's hard to read it. Get it closer to the screen.
You're going to have to put it right on the camera.
Okay. Well,
Have Pam back?
no, she's not.
I only
Okay.
see 4 participants.
So let's get back on the track and say thank you, everybody, for sharing how things have been going for you this week. We've completed all the truth agreements now. So instead of reading them as we have been today, why don't you see which ones you can remember? So everyone look right in the camera and not at your cheat sheet bookmark or anything else. And you can speak them in any, put that away, Noelle. You can speak them in any order with whatever words that express meaning to you. So who would like to offer one of the truth? Go ahead, Barb.
I agree to speak my truth with compassion.
Wonderful. And another?
I agree to live my mission.
And that is?
To serve our one sacred life.
Okay. And another one. Anybody remember the other two?
I remember the last one,
Which is?
which is I agree to stay with what's working and change what isn't.
Wonderful. Very powerful one. Just one more to go. Noelle?
I agree to look within when I react.
Look within when I react. Thank you. Thank you. So each week going forward, we're going to speak the truth agreements from memory, and we're going to keep building on that as we go along. So Who wants to start us off by reading? And then we'll read from the card if you need to use the card. Who would like to read the first acceptance agreement?
I will.
Go ahead. Just pop in.
Acceptance. I agree to listen with my heart.
Next.
I agree to accept our differences, respect our differences.
I agree to resolve conflicts directly.
I agree to honor our choices. And gratitude?
I agree to give and receive thanks.
Wonderful.
I agree to see the best in myself and others.
I agree to look for blessings in disguise.
And all of us, I agree
I
to
agree to lighten up.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So the objective of today's session, this Listen with Heart, is for you to tune into your ability to listen in a way that a person that's speaking really feels heard. You will be able to notice when you begin to compare, analyze, and judge the person that's speaking as opposed to that you're truly listening fully. So, Pam, you're back with us?
I am. I'm so disappointed because my computer it cut right out, and I don't know, it's Spectrum. It's awful.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. You're here and you're present. So that's fantastic.
Yes.
So we're talking today about exploring this fifth agreement. I agree to listen with my heart. This agreement actually is asks us to be open-hearted, but also open-minded, and to release thoughts that get in the way of truly listening so that a person feels truly heard. And I'd like to share with you, this just happened to me, today's Tuesday, this just happened to me last week. And how this has helped me in my life, I actually was on the receiving end. Rather than me listening with heart, I had the opportunity to experience someone listening to me with heart and see what their reactions were and how that made me feel. Noelle and I met a woman named, I think she's a woman, but I'm not sure, in early 2013. Her name's Julia, and she was born on planet in Italy. And I met her at a Barbara Marx Hubbard event in California in February of 13. And the moment I met her, the moment I saw her eyes, I knew that she was from another planet. I just knew it. And so we were in the same session for the whole weekend. Noelle was off with Michael Bernard Beckwith, so she wasn't at the session. But the day after the weekend, we spent a whole afternoon with Julia and a couple of other folks. And she told us about what planet she came from and what solar system she came from and why she's on Earth. And we had a wonderful conversation, very interesting. We stayed in touch for a couple of years, but we've been out of touch for the last 2 years. And so we reconnected with her in the last week or two. And she, and so we had a wonderful Zoom call last week where she shared some things that she hadn't shared with us before. She was having some physical challenges and whatnot a couple of years ago, and some personal relationships and whatnot. And now she's in just this wonderful, glowing presence. And what was interesting for me was that after we spent an hour and 15 or an hour and a half on the phone, on Zoom call together talking, she's in Italy, she's in Milan, Italy right now. We invited her to be our guest on a Co-Creators Convergence call in June. And she said, well, what would I talk about? And I said, all the things that we've just been talking about for the last hour and a half. And she said to me, she said, well, it's very obvious that Bob has been listening and is receptive. And she commented on my body language and the fact that it was very clear to her that I was truly listening to her and that she felt truly listened to. And she said that's not always the case. People tune out. Some of the really wild stuff that she talks about, and people kind of go away from the conversation and are either planning for what they want to say next or have just zoned out. And it was really a compliment for her to say to me that she was experiencing what it felt like emotionally, because the planet that she's from, basically they're nothing but emotion. They don't have any physical form or anything else. And she said, she just shared in her own words how significant it was to truly feel like someone was listening with their heart. So that was my experience. What we're going to do is we're going to begin by exploring this agreement. But before we do, is there anybody that has any questions about the actual meaning of this? Listening with heart.
No.
Okay. So there's, since Pam's on the phone this evening, if we introduce ourselves, make sure we introduce ourselves when you're going to talk, so that I know she recognizes Noelle's voice, but not necessarily everybody's voice. So here we go. It's a fine line to not be listening to solve or to help someone, especially when you care for someone. With ones that we love, we also often are just trying to help. And with others, sometimes our motive, conscious or unconscious, is that we want to be right, and so we're just preparing for what we're going to say in response to someone else, rather than truly listening to them. So I can even think about times, to be very honest with you, that we have done in this circle, that we've done just that in this program. When Barb was talking about her relationships with her drinking family party, or when Carrie was talking about some of her challenges, that some of us, even on this call, were responding to others on this call in an effort to help. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges when you're interacting with people that you love, people that you care about, to not be trying to jump right in and fix, jump right in. Well, not necessarily in judgment, but you're trying to fix. So you've tuned out that muscle of listening with heart when that happens. So this week is especially valuable to us to be aware of and to exercise that particular agreement. So let's talk about your focus on today exercises at the end of the chapter, and see if you noticed any occasions where you began to compare or analyze or judge another person who was speaking, and ask you to practice listening so that the other person truly feels heard. So what was your experience? Let's share a little bit about what your experience has been with this agreement and with the exercises at the end of your chapter. So I'm going to call on you this evening. In fact, maybe we'll start with someone who has an L for listening. Someone has an L in their name, and that would be you, Noelle.
Oh.
Also, kind of for 2 minutes.
For 2 minutes. Okay, to listen with my heart. Well, as you knew, I was a speech language pathologist, and I worked primarily with people who had head injury and stroke. And my job as a clinician was to help them to regain their ability to communicate. And so I was always in the, therapist position of, telling them what to do, how to do it, and giving them feedback on how they did. So it's a different role, and that role then carries over into other things. So it's, but I find really, and I know, Bob, you've said this to me many times, is that people like to talk to me. And it's not that I'm talking, I'm just listening. And so sometimes I think so there's a good and the bad of that being a therapist. Part of it is that, you're being paid to fix things. And the other part is you're being paid to listen deeply. And so it's, but I think I enjoyed reading the chapter because I think it gave me time to pause and think, like, what are the benefits of that job, and what were the detractors of when I think, like, okay, they want help or they need help, therefore I'm supposed to jump in. But I retired from that. So I'm hoping I'm doing more of the listening and listening to the unsaid. And that's where it gets tricky, because sometimes you don't know what the unsaid is, because you really don't know what that, some people that, you don't know everybody's story. And sometimes, you have to know the person. And so sometimes it can backfire where you think you're listening, and then you realize, oh, gee, if I'd known that about that person, that's certainly nothing I would ever have said to them. So it's a little tricky, especially when it's like maybe through something through Facebook where you don't have other, cues. As the book also said, is that, even when we talk, people only take about 7% of what we say when we talk, like in lecture and stuff like that. You only get about 7% of the information from the words. Mostly you get it from body language and facial expression. And I have a few of those. So anyway, I thought it was really good. Actually, I think it's nice just to listen. I think that sometimes just what somebody wants is just to be heard, and that's it. And so it's remembering that. And I also learned is that sometimes I would say, is there something you want me to help you with? Let them lead if they want deeper or, ideas from experience or from other things. So I'm just kind of babbling, but I think that's about 2 minutes. That was all good stuff.
It's always good stuff.
What I'd like to do is do something different here, and that is to ask the question of the other three of you. When you were listening to Noelle just now, were you practicing listening with your heart without judging or analyzing what she was talking about? Were you able to make space for Noelle to actually feel like she was being heard?
I think I was. I've really been working on this, and I'm trying to be like mindful. So I think this is really about a kind of a mindfulness thing too, and just to be present in hearing and not worrying about what I'm going to say afterwards, not worrying about, can I help her? I mean, she doesn't need any help, but just listening. I think I really have been doing a good job of that this week. The problem arises when I think other people should be doing the same thing. And I'm concerned that I'm not being listened to, or I'm not being heard. Maybe they're listening, but they're not hearing what I'm saying or what I meant to say. I thought that when I saw that in the book, that really rang true with me.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you, Barb, Janice. Carrie or Pam, would you like to share anything about how you felt you were holding yourself in listening to Noelle?
I was really focusing on what she was saying, and then my dog jumped on me and demanded my attention, and I blipped for a minute, and it made me feel bad because I missed something she said, and it's never coming back, and so I missed more by berating myself. This is something overly conscious of it. I think it got in my way. If I'd have just sat there and listened and not worried about having to sit there and listen, in other words, not worrying having to just focus, I probably would have gotten more from it than just what I did, because I was distracted by my dog, and then I was distracted by being distracted.
Mm-hmm. And how easy that can be, right?
Yeah.
So, Pam, did you want to share anything? Thank you, Carrie.
Well, this is quite a lesson for me now in listening, because all I have are the words and no body language.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's a lot more mindful to not get distracted and hear what's being said. So to me, this is just such an interesting predicament that I'm in, because I really enjoy being able to zoom in and see your faces and read your body language. And so I think this is part of my lesson today, to hear. And so it was something that I was very mindful of, listening to what she had to say without being able to see her.
Thank you, Pam. In fact, this is actually a great exercise, and it's great. You know, I'm sorry that you don't have your visual with you today, but in fact, because we're on this agreement, it's actually a lesson for all of us to be considering, is how many times do we have phone conversations with someone where we don't have body language, like you said, Noelle, the other 93% of the communication coming to us, it's only the words. And how do we listen with heart when we can't see? So that's fantastic. Thank you, Pam. So Noelle, how did you feel heard?
Oh, yeah, I did. Very much so. Mm-hmm.
And how would you know if your communication was really being received by others of us?
Well, I know it wasn't so much received by Carrie, because she told me that.
Mm-hmm.
And by Barb, I know it was because it made her think about other things, stimulated some other thoughts in her. And with Pam, I know that she at least got part of the message, because she can only get the audio, so she doesn't get the rest of the message. And that's it's kind of, I think it's kind of funny. But actually, it may have been an improvement in that maybe she got more than 7%, maybe she got 70% without the visual. I don't know, because we all learn in different ways. Mm-hmm. Some are more auditory and some are more visual.
Right.
So, but I felt heard. Well, you know, I'll have to say, except for what Carrie said. I mean, she really said she kind of got distracted there twice.
Right.
So that you know, I really didn't feel fully heard by Carrie.
Okay.
But that's nothing personal.
Would you have felt more heard by me if, instead of saying how I related to you, if I had said something about what you said directly? Because after I said it, I thought, oh, maybe that wasn't, you know, maybe I shouldn't have related it to myself. I should have just said something back to, do you miss being a counselor? Do you miss, you know, that type of thing?
Well, yeah, I think that would have definitely made it feel more personal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, this is kind of what.
No, I wasn't. Yeah. I did it wrong.
No, you didn't. There is no wrong.
There is no wrong, but it is a learning moment. It truly is.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I was going to ask Noelle, I was going to ask all of you, what did you actually hear Noelle say? What did you hear her say? And you just, you know, by what you just brought up, Barb, you're saying that if you had come back to her and paraphrased some of the things that she said, or asked for more clarity, or asked or probed further to her what she shared, probe further into that, like asking, so how do you feel about not being a therapist, whatever, that is the kind of connection that typically would have Noelle, in this example, feeling more heard.
Yeah.
To really have had someone say back to them, wow, you know, I can relate to that experience because of this, or I can really feel what you're saying and the passion that you have to it, or whatever it is, you know, or the anger that's in your voice, whatever it is. And so that's the learning of this, is to be able to say, is for the person to feel heard like I felt with Julia, and for and actually for her to say something to me about that made clear that I truly was listening. And so this has been a great variety. It's a great variety of what you said, Barb, the distraction that you had, Carrie, and Pam, for you to only be able to hear words rather than to see anything as well. This is great learning. Noelle?
Oh, I know that Bob heard me because he used the statistic that I use, that when people only hear about 7% of what you say.
Right.
And he used that in his, what he talked about subsequent to that.
Right.
So I know that I can think of Bob did give a specific reflection of what I said at one point. Yeah, I get it.
So you got it. Yeah. I mean, you understand that that's the type of thing that makes a person feel like, yeah, they really were listening.
Mm-hmm.
And so, well, this is great. This is great. So let's consciously practice what we're learning as we listen to each other. When the speaker has spoken, listeners should respond by demonstrating that you're listening with your heart. So who else has an L in their name? That would be Pam DeLapp. Pam, why don't you go ahead and share as Noelle did, if you would, and just, let me get back to what question I asked Noelle here.
Okay.
So,
well,
yeah.
Okay, so this has really been a great chapter to read for me, because I signed up and went through some training to be a support parent through Parent to Parent of Wisconsin. And so what the job is that there's families all over the state of Wisconsin that have kids with disabilities, and if they feel like they need and want support, they can sign up to be matched with someone who has got situations that are like theirs. So there's this big database, and, it talks about my family. I give details about my family, whatever. So I got this, so I've had several matches already where parents, they'll call me and say, here's a parent, she has a 7-year-old with autism with significant behaviors, blah, 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 blah. So my job is to call them and offer support and listen to them. And it's, I often have wondered, am I doing a good job? Am I, and so when I read this chapter and it talks about, am I listening or do I jump in to fix? Here's what I would do. Here's what I did. I can relate. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I think that it's important for the person to know that they're not alone, but it's more important for them to be able to be heard and supported, for somebody who just is there to listen and not judge. And so for me, this idea, this chapter is really, really good, and the feedback already today is really helping me a lot, because I'm a fixer, man. I want to make all your problems go away. And that's how I've lived most of my life. I've tried to fix everything for my kids and fix everybody, and so this is a really, the thing that stuck out, and I know I got 2 minutes, so I hope I didn't go over, but one of the things that stuck out in the chapter was all of that is unnecessary, and it's self-centered, and it breaks the train of thought for the person who's speaking. And the idea that, none of those are my intention, to when I say, oh, I totally can relate, I know what you're going through, and, here's something that I tried. I thought that was all helpful stuff, but when I looked at it from a different perspective of being then it turns into being about me and not about them. So anyway, I just, I can be a better listener, and I need to practice, and that's why it's interesting that tonight I only get the words.
This is absolutely, this is divine, a divine arrangement here for you this evening, Pam. So I have a few thoughts about that, but first I'd like to ask others if you have any reaction to Pam's sharing.
I think I can, give a little feedback. When I read this chapter, I mean, part of the time I was reading it, I had tears in my eyes because it so touched my heart. Because I'd never really come into contact with the idea of what listening really is. And what was coming to my mind was all the times when I reached out just for someone to talk to and wound up getting fixed. And in a sense, it was never satisfying to me because I always felt as though all I really wanted was that support, that listening. And I didn't get it. What I got was judgment and telling me what to do and how to run my life. And then the other side of the coin is, but ain't that like what I am right now? Because that's how I learned it. I learned to help other people by making sure that they knew the right way to go and the right way to do things and the right things to say. That was always my thing, And so I really understand what it's like, especially when you're volunteering time to help people, like Pam is, and she's there for somebody who has a desperate situation. And I had some problems with my daughter, and sometimes I was ready to climb walls. And the last thing I needed was somebody to say, well, this is what I did. I don't want to know what you did. I just want to know that you know that I'm hurting and that I need somebody in my life who's going to be okay with that, who's going to listen to my ranting and my raving and let me just get it out of my system. And I'm sure that Pam thinks, well, maybe I'm not sure, but I wonder if maybe Pam thinks back and wonders, if she really gave that person a sense of being listened to or not. I don't know, but I know that I looked at myself on that level and said, I'm sure that a lot of times I have not made a person feel as though I was listening. I was too busy telling them what I thought about what they were saying.
Thanks, Carrie. So did others of you, what did you actually hear Pam say? Did you notice any feelings when she was speaking?
I was feeling, this is Barb,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I felt like you were saying that you were really just trying to help somebody, and now you were wondering if what you did was really helping them or if you should change the way you were doing it. And yeah, that's what I heard.
That's what I heard too.
Noelle, anything?
Yeah. I think that because I know Pam probably the best of all, besides Bob here. I've seen her, want to jump in and fix, and I can relate to that. But what I heard coming through, what she learned was a lot of relief and gratitude for what she read in the chapter.
Mm-hmm.
That she's taken on an enormous job of being a support to, families who don't get a lot of support, believe me. It used to really upset me when, I would see my, autistic clients leave and just know that, if nothing else, I gave that parent 1 hour of relief and then have to, send them home and you want to fix, but I'm getting off track here. But what I heard was a lot of compassion for the families. I heard a lot of gratitude for the resources, and I heard some really, she's thinking about changing what doesn't work, and trying different avenues. Mm-hmm. So I see some exploring there. So just a real sincerity to be of a really supportive this is one of the questions I used to ask is like, how can I support you? And then they can ask me specifically, and then I'm more on track. So I don't know. I've just given some advice there without saying doing the other things. But I also heard her really wanting to listen to the people, and doing more of that before. So I guess that gets back to compassion. Some other stuff. It was all good, Pam.
Thank you.
So, Pam, this is just wonderful. When you said something about you feel like you oftentimes will say, or sometimes will say, I know what you mean because this has happened to me, blah, 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 fill in the blank. And the fact is that you do have valuable information to provide to those people in that circumstance where they have been paired up with you to provide support. But when it comes to listening with heart, listening with your heart, then the opportunity is there for you to say, I guess Noelle kind of said this as well, is to ask them if they would like you to share some of your experiences, but making sure that they have said all they need to say, that they have, whether that's venting or whether, the frustration or challenge or whatever it might be, that they truly feel heard before you even ask the question, may I share a few things with you that I've found to be, comforting or helpful to me or whatnot. But that's not the first thing you say. First is to have them truly feel that you were truly listening with your heart, because that is the glue of the relationship in that moment with that particular person, that makes it possible for them to truly hear you and what you're offering and know that it's coming from your heart because you have been listening with your heart. So wonderful. This has been a great dialogue. So what I'm going to try to do is I have a few notes here that I'm going to try to see what it's like. I don't know how well this is going to go. We're going to see. To when there's a contrast to this. So listen to my story and then interact with me about it. Allow your thinking to wander to a place of wanting to help me or to fix the problem or even to judge me if that comes up for you. So I'm going to tell you a story and then you're going to look at what not listening with your heart is, if you will. So coming from a place of trying to fix what I have to say or what I'm talking about or even to judge me about it or whatnot. So here's what I want to share. I will say, here's my story. So I'm pretty frustrated with my web tech guy. Technically, he can do anything, but he doesn't communicate well. So I send him a request and it feels like it goes into a black hole. That's my story. So what do you have to say about that? Noelle?
Well, I think one of the things we learn is to, well, maybe it's something, maybe we're going to get to it sooner about resolving conflicts directly. But I think what you have to say is, when you do X, it makes me feel X. So when I send you something and I don't get any response from you, this is how it makes me feel. And so you're being authentic, communicating with them about how it makes you feel, and then you listen. Mm-hmm. See, they go like, I didn't get anything from you. What are you talking about? Well, that's my old email. And so you're making some assumptions that things went into a black hole and you don't even really know. That's what you're assuming. Mm-hmm. You don't even know whether they got that transmission from you.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. That's how I feel when we send things to Clark about our financial investments and I don't hear anything back from us. Yeah, I know. Anyone else?
So tech people usually want emails or texts. They don't want to talk. Maybe you could call them. And talk directly if you're able to get a phone call through. I get frustrated by texts that don't really get answers. Sometimes you'll ask somebody a question, they'll text you back, but they're not answering what you're saying.
Oh yeah, I'm very frustrated by it because I call them all the time, and it's just like my calling goes into a black hole because it goes into a phone tree or it goes into a whatever, and I'm just like, the comment I'll make to Noelle is, well, I guess I have been working for Verizon for the last hour. I guess I've been working for Equity Trust Company for the last hour or whatever. Or when a tech guy, I feel like I'm working for them instead of them working for me.
Yeah. Then I would suggest maybe it's time to change people.
So just with these two examples and my response to you, this is the opposite of listening with heart. This is you telling me how to fix it right away and whatnot. And I guess I think this was the chapter that Marion had great examples in there about trying to fix her mother every time she called her mother many years ago. And her mom would always have something else. Oh, well, nobody can help me go to the grocery store, blah, blah, blah. And so Marion's attempt to fix caused frustration. Well, it actually causes fodder for the people not being connected in a good way, listening with heart, and speaking their truth with compassion, because one's trying to fix the other one, and the other one doesn't want to be fixed. I don't want to be fixed about the tech thing. I'm already frustrated. I don't even want to hear what you guys have to say. And so those were great examples, I think, in Marion's, and how, again, let's back up. The purpose of the entire 12 weeks is about a personal path to peace, inner peace. Well, that's not making any peace for me if I'm arguing with you because you're trying to tell me how to do it right or differently. And I say, well, I already tried all those things. There's no peace in that for me. And so
we just have to tell you that must be very frustrating.
Yeah. So then that's kind of this is the challenging part of this particular one. And Pam, you described some of that in a true life experience, because most of us have a tendency that I know everybody on this call does, that we want to help, that we want to provide assistance to others. So great. So okay, so we're going to do something.
Well, wait.
Oh, she's back. Hi, Pam. Go ahead, Noelle.
Well, what I said,
Pam, with your
turn the phone off, Pam.
Put at least one of them on mute.
There we go.
I took care of that.
Put the phone on mute, or
Okay,
the
I put them both on mute. Go ahead, Noelle.
Well, what I was saying is that I gave you an answer like, I'll speak my truth of compassion, and then say, when you do X, it makes me feel X. I think that is listening with my heart, because I want to hear what they have to say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Versus jumping to an assumption like, you never return my call, or you always say you're going to call and you never call.
Right. Yeah, you're right. It is speaking the truth with compassion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't clear that you got that transmission.
Thank you. Pam, so you good with us? You're present?
Both going on?
The what?
I've got
Having a fight.
I've got my phone on because I'm afraid of the connection being lost. So I am sorry about that. I do have it muted and I'm leaving my phone connection on just in case.
All right, not a problem at all. That's perfect. So be with us right away if the computer pops off again.
Right.
Okay, so let's have some fun. Is there anyone who likes to play games like charades or Pictionary or something like that?
I do, but my husband doesn't.
There you go. Well, then this is the perfect game for you. So here's your mission, should you choose to accept it. Explain this agreement, and whoever would like to go first, explain this agreement to someone who speaks English as a second language. explain this agreement to, and I'm glad you're back on the picture again, Pam, so you can see all this. Explain this agreement to someone who speaks English as a second language. Who'd like to go first? Who'd like to do?
Well, what's the first language?
All right. I'm just going to, so I'm miming. Is that what I'm doing?
Yep.
Okay.
No props.
Listening with heart. Perfect.
Okay, there's my heart.
Thank you. Thank you. That's great. Yes, we do have props. We carry these with us all the time. We keep them in the car. Fantastic. So this has really been a rich conversation, and it looks like it's time for us to do a little journaling. As you know, normally I put on some music, and from what I can tell, I'm going to close my video and see if I can find where that is, but it probably won't be there. So let's just spend a couple of minutes in silence, or hum to yourself if you like. Noel?
Well, maybe somebody else wanted to contribute there.
Oh, to do a charade?
Does it have to be a charade?
A Pictionary? However you want to do it. Did you have an idea, Noel?
No, but I just didn't know if anybody else did.
Okay.
Let's see.
Pam, explain this agreement to someone who has English as a second language. You don't have to just because Noel thinks you want to. Okay. So,
Pictionary? Okay, then. I'm going to draw it here. All right. Wait, it's coming. It's coming.
okay.
We're patient.
You have 15 more seconds.
Oops. Okay, can you see it?
A little closer. Not really. Okay.
Pictionary.
Oh, yes. Two little stick fingers. Can everybody see that? You can put, Noel, if you talk and everybody puts you on speaker view, would be able to see it. You talk.
Okay, so what I have here are two stick figures. I'm not coming up on speaker view. Am I?
Yeah, you
I
are.
am?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's one that has ears, and then there's one that has a heart, and then there's a connection between the two. So that could be a Pictionary one versus a charade one. Right?
Fantastic. Fantastic, Noel. Thank you. And I'm going to make
You're
sure
welcome.
that, now how do I get back to gallery here? I'm going to make sure that when Marion is looking for her next illustrator for her book, that she contacts you.
Very reasonable prices.
So someone with big ears connected to someone else's heart. That's fantastic. Or it was a bad hairdo. I'm not sure which. So let's take some time. Let's take a couple of minutes and do some journaling about this particular agreement. And like I said, rather than me fidget around and distract you with some bringing up some music, if I get to it, just hum to yourself, if you will. And I'll let you know when it's been a couple of minutes. So it's been about 3 minutes. So if you'd wrap up your notes there, and you can continue later, of course, and also with your conversations with your new buddy. So would anyone like to share what you've just discovered by this opportunity to do a little journaling about this agreement and how it might enrich your relationships? Anyone like to share anything from your few moments of solitude? If not, we're going to talk about, Barb, go ahead.
I was just wondering if the people that you're talking to and they're talking to you haven't done this type of work, they might not understand when they're used to you talking to them and giving them feedback as they go along.
Right.
If you shouldn't tell them beforehand, you know what, I'm just going to listen to you this time, and you can talk as long as you want, and I'm not going to say anything until you're done. Would that be appropriate?
I think that would be a fantastic, idea. And it's actually putting them on notice that you intend to be different. You intend to act differently in your interaction with them this time. But it's all about them.
Yeah.
You're doing that because you care about them. And because, frankly, this, hey, I want to jump in and fix, or I want to jump in and tell you how this has been for me, or I had experience like that or whatnot, that is contagious. And when I do it, when I should be listening to you with heart, and instead I jump in and start telling you, well, that reminds me of my blah, 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 and I did that and watch that. What can result from that is then you turn around and do the same thing back on me. And it stands in the way of a deeper conversation, among other things. So that's fantastic. Great idea, Barb. Noel?
Oh, go ahead.
Noel, then Pam.
Listen with heart. So I just wrote something. I'll just read it. I said, God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth and 1 heart. Sometimes when someone tells me something painful, my hand automatically goes to my heart. Sometimes I slip and it goes to my mouth. And I think this shuts the person down, because then maybe they think I'm judging or laughing or not believing them. Another thing, eyes are important. Windows to the soul. Combine heart and eye contact and don't interrupt. And I would just say that when I go to a play or a talk or something like that, I am a good audience. People, and Bob has noticed this, it's like all of a sudden the person that's on the stage is talking directly to me, because I'm giving them nonverbal cues that I'm extremely interested in what they have to say. And I think if I just remember to be a good audience, or be a good listener, not an audience, but when you're in that situation, you can be, that. So anyway, those are just some of the thoughts I had to come to me.
We've been going to a women's center near here, and we're in a book club. Yes, we've been in one place long enough to be in a book club. And we were just there yesterday. We're reading Sacred Economics by Charles Eisenstein. Highly recommend it to everybody. And I was thinking about this agreement because I was kind of watching myself and watching others in the room and watching them, Noel, how often people will look at you. And there's there's 8 people around the table to look at. But when they're speaking, they look at a person that they feel is really listening. They can look at any of the 8 people around the table, and some do scan, but they tend to look at the person that they feel is listening. Mm-hmm. So great lesson. Pam?
I agree with what you just said wholeheartedly. Yeah. As a speaker, I will look to see who I feel is really listening. Mm-hmm. Yep, I would agree. I listened to what Barb said, and I have some of the same questions about, and I'm specifically, again, looking at the relationship building. When I get a new parent on the phone, I have no idea anything about them. I don't know what they look like. I don't know anything about them other than the information that I got from headquarters about them.
Mhm.
So I'm calling them, and then, like, you know, do I say how, you know, before they even start, I introduce myself, and then I'll say to them, you know, I'm calling to offer you some support. How, you know, how can I help you? And then they'll start talking, blah, 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 and they'll usually tell me about their family and, you know, that whole get to know you piece. But the idea of, do I put that out there in this situation? Do I put it out there as, you know, what is the best way I can support you? Are you looking for, ideas, suggestions on how to help? Are you looking for resources? Are you looking for me to just listen? Is that what I say?
That's a great start. Or let them tell more of their story first, and then ask the question that way, because then it gives you direction as to what they're truly looking for. And if you have some preliminary information from them in writing from headquarters, if you've made it, you know, highlighted a couple of things that they may expand upon in their telling you their story in answer to your first question. Tell me a little bit more about yourself or whatnot. If you've highlighted a couple things, you may want to ask for clarification or ask for them to tell you a little bit more about. That's a great opening line that says, I want to know more about this, and I'm here listening with my heart, without saying those words. You're just saying, tell me more about. Well, the fact that you even asked that, they hadn't talked about it, but it was in the material that came to it. They know that you cared enough to be reading the material that came to them, because you're asking for a more in-depth understanding about some specific element, about what was in their paperwork, or some more specific or deeper understanding of something that they told you in the first part of the conversation. But yeah, I think an adaptation of what you were just saying, what Barb was suggesting, opens it. And this idea of paraphrasing back to them some of the things you heard them say,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can they know you were listening, and you're seeking more information. The broad question, of course, about how can I support you is, you know, because you may get the answer. Heck, I just wanted somebody to listen, and you've done immense service in that.
Well, and the typical way that it works is 4 contacts. Like I'll make 4 contacts to them over a period of 4 weeks.
Okay.
I mean, it can be more in between that, but that's the typical way that goes. So, you know, it kind of gives me what are they looking for from me for the next time we talk?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
wonderful.
Maybe that program needs to have a revolutionary agreements course.
You know,
for parents.
Maybe everybody needs to have that course.
So thank you, Noelle. And I hope that all of you, I certainly think about it on a regular basis, to think about where else might this be an opportunity for to share this so that people can adapt it. We aren't going to, in our 12 weeks, we're not going to spend any time in the back half of the book that talks about examples about how people have applied it, not just Marion's ideas, but how people truly have applied this over the last 10 years in nonprofit organizations and businesses and families and whatnot. And so I'm always thinking about that. Noelle and I went to the No Labels conference in Washington. I'm thinking, if we had time, we were in DC, I'd like to sit down with their staff and talk to them about reading this book together and coming up with their adaptation of it and how much benefit it could be to them. So yeah, fantastic. So anything else?
Just one little last thing. This last fall and over the winter, I did another course. It was a higher level leadership course.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought in a speaker on servant leadership. Mm-hmm. And going through this and that class, like putting those two things together,
Mhm.
what, as you were talking, I'm going to make that recommendation.
Yeah, wonderful.
Because it was, this fits in all of the leadership work we were doing, these fit.
Yeah.
So,
Wonderful. And as that evolves, let me know. Marion would love to know about how others are adapting and using this in their lives,
oh, sure.
individually or groups of people. So, well, we're a little bit over our time, so let's talk about assignments. This has just been a really joyous sharing this evening. I really, really appreciate it. So let's see. New buddies. Brand spanking new buddies for the acceptance pillar. So starting this week, I'm going to have you ask your buddy a different question that we've been exploring in our buddy conversations the first time, for the first pillar. So the new question, and I'll put it in my email to you tonight or tomorrow morning, but you can write it down, is how is practicing this agreement expanding your ability to accept others? This is the acceptance pillar. So the question is, how is practicing this agreement expanding your ability to accept others? Of course, your second assignment is to get in your insight form, one of the two of your new buddy pairings. And let me talk about that for a second, because I heard, Carrie, you and Noelle exchanging before I got on and before I launched the music. And I want to go back and confirm that I got an insight form from each pair of you this week. Because normally when I get it, I acknowledge it to both of you right away. And now that I got to thinking about it, I've got my form here that I'm supposed to fill out to make sure that I'm keeping track of everything. And I'm not sure I did that this week. So I want to go back and take a look and confirm. And I'll let you know if I didn't. And I'll do that tonight.
Yeah.
While Noelle is weaving with the Co-Creators Convergence Weaver gang. And also, there's still one of you who has not sent your feedback form to Marion. I've gotten really nice note from her each time one of you, I don't know who it is that put in, but she sent me a text.
It wouldn't go through for me.
It's you?
Yeah, it wouldn't go through. I couldn't make it. It turned and never went through. It just
Okay. Well, let me. So you filled out the form, Carrie?
Yeah, filled out the form and then it wouldn't send. I don't know. It might have been my connection. There was just like a circle going around and it said waiting to upload. Do not close this window. So I left it open for an hour and a half and it still hadn't done anything except go around in the circle.
Well, I will send you a separate email, an individual email with the link again. I'll test it, myself, and then I'll send it to you again and we can talk directly offline about it.
I had to fill it out all over again. I wish that I copied my answer.
I'm sorry about that. And so that's the assignment for this week, is the insight form, and of course reading the next chapter and doing the focus on today exercises. But before we close, here is an extra credit assignment for this. Extra credit. So this week you'll have an opportunity for some additional learning. If you're able to, I invite you to make believe that you have laryngitis and lose your voice for a day. If you can't pull this off for a whole day, maybe you can do it for half a day, or maybe you can do it for a few hours. And so have a small notepad handy. Just make like you have laryngitis for a couple of hours or whatnot. Have a notepad handy and jot down the categories of each thought that you want to speak, but you can't speak.
Oh, good God.
Wait, jot down what?
Jot down the category. I'll give you examples in a moment. Categories of each thought you want to speak, but you can't speak it. So keep this small notebook or pad with you throughout your silent time. Every time you want to say something, but you can't because you've got laryngitis, make a note of the category it falls in. And here are some categories. Here's examples of some categories. So there's a category of judgment. You're wrong, I'm right. There's a category of appreciation. I feel connected to you, as an example. There's a category of comparison. I'm like you, or I'm not like you. Or there's a category of opinion. I'm smarter than you. Or there's a category of advice, such as, I can fix this for you, or I can fix you, or I can fix the situation. So at the end of the day, your list about what you wish you could have said but couldn't may also reveal how you listen. So when you keep track of this for a while and you realize, wow, I was going to say something, but I'm not allowed to because I have laryngitis. But I realize now that thought was a thought of judgment. And so if you kind of keep track of that for a period of time as to catching yourself what you were going to say but can't because you have laryngitis, the categories of your what you would have said may also be a clue to yourself about the categories about how you listen or don't listen. You listen with judgment, you listen with advice, you listen with comparison, you listen with opinion, you listen with gratitude or appreciation. So just a fun exercise for you. If you'd like to, the extra credit is just the extra. So there you go. So we're going to wrap up, but we also promised that we were going to do a screenshot. So while I practiced this week, seeing how I could get that video to play for you all at the beginning, I was unable to get that done and still have my PowerPoint in front of me. And so I wanted to, the other thing I wanted to learn to do this week is how to do a screenshot on Zoom. And so we can share this, our hearts, and for those of you that don't have a heart, you can make a heart. You can make a heart, or show your heart, or whatever. And I'm going to do a screen.
You know how to do screenshot?
Yeah, I'm going to find the right keyboard I've got, and we're going to share this on the #LoveMore part of the site. And next week, Carrie, you can make sure your cat brings along a heart. So thank you everybody for being a part of this evening. Smile. Got it. I think I got it. I won't know until later. So escape back from that. So let's close up with the evening. And Barb, we look forward to hugging you on Friday in Independence, Virginia. And we'll close out the evening on the count of 3.
Wait.
I
don't know who my buddy is.
Oh, it was in our letter. Oh, wait a second.
Noel is your buddy.
Noel's your buddy. And Pam, Green, if you go to speaker view, you'll see Noel's note to you.
Speaker view.
Top right corner, click where it says speaker view. Got it?
You have to talk, Noel.
Okay, I'm talking. Happy
Talk some more.
birthday, Pam.
Aww.
Did you have a good day?
Yes, I did.
Good. How old are you?
50.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
I
You're
can't believe
You're
that.
a baby.
And many more to
Yes,
come.
he's a baby in the group.
Yeah.
Many more to come. All right, everybody. Well, it's been a wonderful evening. Thank you so much. On the
Have a
count,
good week.
we're going to agree to listen with my heart. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. I agree.
I agree.
Listen with my heart. Yes.
Good night,
Yes.
everyone.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.